Hey guys, how are we all doing? Just taking care of a angry Achilles which flared up over the Sydney Marathon weekend, the weekend just passed. I didn't run, but I was down there in Sydney to support Trish, who was running in the half marathon. This year's Sydney Marathon was a candidate race for inclusion into the Abbot World Marathon Majors. And since race day, what's that been, 4 days now, there has been a lot of discussion on social media about Sydney's chances to be included in the marathon majors. And at the end of this video, I'm going to add my 5 cents to that discussion. But first, here's a look at the Sydney Marathon race day. Half marathon is well underway. 10k is just about to start, and as you can see, I'm not at the start area anymore. I wasn't able to get close to the start because so much restricted area. So I walked up onto the bridge and saw the runners come up through their first kilometre. Now I'm just heading along the course because the half marathon finish is different to the finish of the marathon, so I want to be able to see Trish come in. And now I'm just running under the bridge, get down by the water, and then I'll catch up with some of the half marathon runners again a little bit later on. What about that sunrise coming up over Sydney Harbour, guys? Spectacular. It is forecast to get to 30 degrees today, so it's going to be very warm for the marathon, which starts, I think, at about 7:30, 7:45, maybe earlier, I'm not sure. Hey mate, what time do you start?
Sorry?
What time do you start?
7.
7, is it? Good luck.
How about you?
No, I'm just running, mate. Oh, there you go. 7 o'clock the marathon starts. So that's about another, probably 50 minutes. So I'm just going to run around the harbour a little bit, catch up with some more of the runners over the other side, get towards the finish of the half marathon at the Conservatorium of Music. But other than getting a little bit warm, it's a cracking day. I've had to ditch the shirt already, guys. It's a little bit warm. Sydney Opera House over there. Marathon course will come through under here on their way out to Centennial Park, and then they'll come back and finish over there at the Opera House. You probably won't be able to pick it up on the GoPro, but just over there you can see the half marathoners heading out, probably in about their 3rd kilometre there, I would say. And they do go out and run around Centennial Park and come back and finish pretty close to the Opera House, but at the Conservatorium of Music. So you can probably gather that I'm not going to hang around for the start of the marathon, because I do want to see Trish come in. But hopefully there'll be some big screens up around the place and I can see the start there. I said in my last video, guys, that Sydney Marathon is pushing to be included as a Abbot World Marathon Major. So all eyes are on Sydney in the marathon world today. A little bit later on this morning, marathoners and the 10k runners are going to come streaming down here and towards the finish there at the Opera House. Finished with the half marathon here, and you can just see the top of the Opera House over there where the finish of the marathon and the 10k will be. So in about, probably only about 20 minutes or so, we're going to see the first runners in the half marathon. So I won't venture too far away from here. We'll get those leaders coming in. Helicopters everywhere. Marathon's been going 15 minutes. Just going to go back along the course and hopefully I'll meet up with the marathoners at some stage. Try and find a distance marker here somewhere so we just know how far it is in. As marathoners are in for a little bit of a shock when they get into the city. There are a few little pinches, a few little testing hills, only short, but they're going to test the legs. Okay, found a kilometre marker, 14k, so that should be what, about 42, 45 minutes. We should see the first runners come through. What is it, 20 past? About another 20 odd minutes. So I might just go run a little bit more. Absolutely stunning harbour, isn't it? Not too many better harbours in the world, guys. On a day like today, pristine. So one of the turnaround points for the 10k. They are on the opposite side of the road where the marathon's going to come. But massive fields today. I think I read somewhere 40,000 runners all up across all events. So fantastic turnout, and definitely is now Australia's biggest running festival. That's a big lead group after 13k. Big group from the leading women. guys, well done. One of those little testing hills that I told you about running through the city.
So there you go guys, a cracking race day for the Sydney Marathon, and Sydney really did turn it on. Almost 34,000 finishes across all events, 13,200 odd finishing in the marathon. But what do I think of Sydney's chances to be included into the World Marathon Majors? Well, look, I know Sydney is dead keen for this to happen, but I really do think that organisers do need to take a leap of faith here and make the marathon a standalone event. It was fantastic that we had so many runners across all those events, and family and friends who came along to support really did boost the numbers around the finish line area and around the course and through the CBD. But I think having those other events on the same day just took the focus away a little bit from the marathon. It just created, I feel, just a few little hiccups, a few little problems, and some of those problems have been well documented on social media since race day, namely some of the drink stations and some of the medical facilities, because it was such a warm day that there were some heat related issues. I think the New South Wales Ambulance Service had to attend to 40 people and another 26 were taken to hospital. So my thoughts are with those guys, and I hope that they have recovered well from those issues. I think it was on the half marathon. Trish did say this to me, that there was water stations out on the half marathon that weren't set up for the half marathoners because they were holding that back for the marathon, which came through later. The half marathon started at 5:45. The marathon started some 75 minutes later. I think that gets back to what I'm saying, that the marathon really does need to be the sole focus of this day, so that, you know, everything is just geared towards marathon runners. This was Sydney's first go at a really big marathon, and I think comparing it to obviously the other world majors, Berlin, Tokyo, London, Chicago, New York and Boston, These guys have been doing it for a long time with tens of thousands of runners. They've had a lot of years to get things right. And look, Sydney, this was the first time that they had numbers of this size. I think the marathon was probably almost double the number of finishes that they've had in previous years. So there was understandable that there was going to be a few little hiccups. Look, the heat, the weather really was out of the control of the organisers. And look, there were some complaints on social media about the medical facilities and how they were not as well organised as they could have been. They did put on extra medical support. Look, it's unfortunate that it did get so hot and that some runners did have those heat-related issues. But I also think that the runners need to have a little bit of responsibility here as well. You know, in the days leading up to race day, there was plenty of warning about it going to be hot on the day. Runners should have been really well prepared for those hot conditions. They also should have been well hydrated and keeping their electrolytes up out there on course. Look, things do happen, I understand that. I think as runners too, we also need to take a little bit of responsibility for ourselves and our own well-being. I'm sure the Sydney Marathon organisers are going to have a really good look at this issue, and going forward, no doubt they're going to fine-tune this area, just like they'll probably fine-tune a lot of things from race day. Hopefully they'll send a survey to runners to get your feedback, just to help maybe improve things a little bit more on race day. Another thing which was really quite prevalent on social media too was the toilets at the start area there at Nilsson's Point. Now, when we got to the start for the half marathon at about 5:15, there wasn't so much of an issue with the toilets, and Trish and I both looked at each other and thought, geez, there's a lot of toilets here. But I think as the crowd got bigger, more and more runners came, and you had something like 34,000 runners passing through that start area in the morning. The toilets became an issue, and no doubt that is going to be something else that the organisers will look at. There was even suggestions that maybe that's not the right place to start the marathon because it is quite congested, and even some people said that with the marathon maybe they need to look at waves as well, like they do at some of the other major marathons around the world, and that's probably not a bad idea too. And then if the sole focus is having the marathon only on that day, then you could probably start earlier as well. Then you just negate any heat issues. As I said, I'm sure survey, feedback, the race organisers will look at all this and will fine-tune things for 2024 and future years. And finally, the course. Look, organisers did tweak the course this year, but I think they can go a little bit further. I feel that there's just way too many twists and turns on the course. There's also some narrow sections. I did a bit of filming around Barangaroo, and even though I was only there when the leading marathoners came through, I think there was about 20 to 25 runners in that lead group. And on that path, there wasn't a lot of room. So I can just imagine that later on, when some of those age groupers came through, when there was maybe hundreds, it would have got quite congested. I know we're trying to show off the iconic sites of Sydney, the Sydney Harbour Bridge, the Opera House, Darling Harbour, around Barangaroo. But I think for safety, probably need to tweak the course just a little bit more so that they haven't got such congestion in those sort of narrower spots. I did read somewhere that they are already planning to maybe tweak the course a little bit more for next year. And look, with next year as well, we're going to have the World Marathon Majors Age Championships in Sydney. That's going to boost numbers, and that congestion in those narrow areas will only get worse. So I reckon organisers will look at the course, they'll tweak it again a little bit more. And I've got no doubt that they received feedback from the people in charge of the Abbot's World Marathon Majors about the course and about some other things as well, where they can improve in future. All right, guys, I'm going to leave that there. Look, I would love for Australia to be included as a Abbot's World Marathon Major. Sydney, I feel, is the ideal place. It's got iconic landmarks, it's got iconic sites. Yeah, fingers crossed that Sydney can be included as the 7th Abbot World Marathon Majors to sit alongside Tokyo, Berlin, London, Chicago, New York and Boston. All right, guys, I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you have got all the way through to this point in the video, thanks very much for watching. Until next time, guys, wherever you are, run well, run safe, be kind to each other, and I'll catch you in the next video. Hey,